All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets in NBA today on both PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go ahead and get into it. So today, as it sits right now, we do have a lot of injury news that's really going to dictate the board right now. So it is going to be tough to do really the game-by-game breakdown. I'm going to do my best, though, to prepare you guys for the slate, depending on how the injury news comes out and whatnot, what we're going to do with said injury news. So it's going to be tough, but let's go ahead and break it down. So we do have 6 games on the slate right now. We're only getting 5 games lines, and that tells you just how much of injury news that we have. So looking at the first one that we are getting, Nets versus Sixers, 2.5 point spread, or that's the best odds. 3.5 point spread is the average odds. 232 is going to be the over and under for that game. Now, yes, looking at this game, guys, Melton is still out. Batum game time decision. Joel Embiid is out. Robert Covington is out as well. That is definitely noteworthy. Okay, but Maxey is someone I do think we're going to be looking at. He had himself a very big game in the absence of Joel Embiid in the last game, which is no shock. We expect that. And then, but also I should call it was a good matchup for him. And then looking at the Nets, Ben Simmons is expected to play. Finney-Smith and Sharp are both out, so the two kind of backup bigs, if you will, centers, if you will, they're out. So Nick Claxton is maybe someone we're looking at. And then Dennis Smith Jr. being out, if Ben Simmons is active, which we are expecting, that really helps Ben Simmons a little bit. And then also Dinwiddie and Cam Thomas as well. So let's go ahead and just see if we're getting prop bets for these two teams. So looking at it with Melton and Embiid off the court, the players that benefit the most minutes-wise, and it's no shock, Reed, Maxey, Pat Bev, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, and Marcus Morris. So looking at right now, I want to go through the per 36 production. We'll start with Harris because he is the one that's popping up the most, 4 rebounds and assists. So his per 36 production is 6.4 rebounds and 4.1 assists. So basically right there. Now the thing is, he could get a little bit of extra run, maybe 37 minutes if this game stays close. He is someone per 36, averages around 40 fantasy points per 36, and then 23.5 points per 36 with Embiid and Maxey off the court. And so really with Harris, the lines that we are getting do seem to be correct. Like the points are spot on for him. Rebounds, again, looking at the per 36 production with Embiid off the court, that's correct. PRA as a whole seems to be correct. Like there's not really big edges there with him. So let's move on into Maxey. And Maxey, we are seeing a slight prop line differences between Underdog and PrizePicks. 0.5, not too big of a deal though. And this is crazy, guys. His per 36 production with Embiid and Melton off the court, points wise, is 36.3 points. And so just already, I feel like that is very noteworthy. Like his demon, and I don't like recommending demons. You guys know that by now. It's not a good long-term solution at all. It's really not a good short-term solution as well. And the matchup against Brooklyn is difficult, okay? But like per 36 production suggests that this should probably be his correct line tonight. And again, I know Ben Simmons is back. That could actually hinder Maxey's production, and I get all that for sure. Makes a lot of sense. But man, the points is popular right now, and I would agree with that. Like the line that we're getting on him does seem to be too low. Rebounds per 36 is only 3.2, so we're really not looking at him to have a good rebounding game, which is what his prop line is set at. Now, last game, he also didn't have good rebounds. He was just shooting the basketball well. Assist per 36 is 5.2, so we're not touching that. So, like, really, the best prop bet that we are getting for him is going to be that points prop. And so it is popping up as a good as a popular bet. And you guys probably know by now, if you found me on Twitter, I have a big gripe with the popular tab as well, because I feel like it's very misleading, but I do agree that this is a good prop bet as it sits right now. And then lastly, we are getting some Kelly Oubre props and some Paul Reed props. Do we need to go in on Paul Reed? We could. The issue that I have with Paul Reed is that we never know how many minutes he's going to get. His per 36 production would suggest that he should be able to crush his over, but again, we're just betting on the minutes. And then Kelly Oubre Jr., very much shot dependent, and so really if you're placing a prop bet on Kelly Oubre, you're better off just doing a points prop. But I will say his per 36 production with Embiid and Melton off the court is 19.5 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 2 assists. And so to me, this line that we're getting is a little bit too low. At the same time, I don't feel the need to chase it as well. So really just Maxey points. And we did just get some fantasy score props, and so I'll just pull that up for Kelly Oubre. Data doesn't really like that, so not really too much there. Let's go ahead and move on into Brooklyn. And so Brooklyn, again, we're not really getting that many big edges. For Cam Thomas, we're seeing under fantasy score. For Cameron Johnson, we're seeing over fantasy score. Slight edges there, but really nothing too much. I would say the props that we are getting for these two teams are correct. I really don't feel the need to spend too much time on them. To me, Brooklyn has been a team that I feel like I can't really get right, and that's just because the minutes are so unpredictable. Now, for Cameron Johnson, we can say, yes, he's going to get around 25 minutes or so. That's fine. Is that enough for him to get his over fantasy score? Certainly, if he doesn't have a poor game shooting, right? Cam Thomas, the exact same thing. If he has a poor game shooting, he's going to get pulled pretty quickly. Mikal Bridges, we can kind of trust the minutes. And then Nick Claxton, fantasy score, I'm a little bit surprised that the data doesn't like the over today. But with that, let's just go on and move on into the next game. And I will say just real quickly with that, like, Claxton does get a better matchup with Embiid out. So like I can see maybe where the data's pulling that in, looking at the matchup with Philly, where it's typically a more difficult matchup. But like if you wanted to bet the over fantasy score for Claxton, I wouldn't blame you, but maybe that just feels like we're forcing it. Looking at the next game, we got the Hawks versus the Golden State Warriors. 2.5 point spread, very high scoring game. 244 is the over and under. Looking at the Hawks, they're going to be good to go. Hunter is a game time decision. He was back. Bay is a game time decision as well. Really, that would just mean Jalen Johnson is going to be someone that should have a good game. Looking at the Golden State Warriors, it is important to note that Sarge is still out. And so with that, we have seen Wiggins get more run. We have also seen Jonathan Kuminga get more run as well. And so looking at the prop bets that we are getting for the Golden State Warriors, I think I can get behind them. Again, it's a tight slate thus far right now with all the injury news that we have. But Andrew Wiggins for over fantasy score, I think I'm fine with. He is someone that minutes have been up a little bit. He's projected to get 32. And so if he does get those 32 minutes, we can see that the line that we are currently getting from PrizePicks is probably going to be a little bit too low, especially in a game that's supposed to be a pace-up game, especially in a game that's going to be a good matchup for him. I can get behind that. Now, he is coming in off of a game in which 3 for 8 didn't exactly shoot the basketball well, didn't really do much elsewhere, but Memphis, that game was a blowout. He didn't need to get a little bit more run than he typically was, so only 30 minutes in that game. The other games that were close, and this is a game that's projected to stay close, was getting 30-plus minutes. Now, in the last game against Atlanta, that game was also a blowout. 4 for 11 in that game. He only had 29 minutes. So I'm assuming this game stays close. I'm pretty sure Trae Young was out in that previous game as well. So, and let's just check that. Yeah, Trae Young was out in that game against Golden State. So really kind of a moot point there. And that's why it was a blowout, obviously. So looking at the next ones, we have Kuminga for over points and assists. Kuminga is going to be a popular, I think, name today that people are going to be going in on. People might want to ride the hot hand with him for fantasy score as well. I'm kind of okay with it. Again, like this is a spot where the data hasn't really seemed to catch up with how well Jonathan Kuminga has been playing and really the minutes that he's been playing. In games that are blowouts, he is still getting run as well. That's the big thing. Just been on a tear. Yes, he's been shooting the basketball well. Don't get me wrong. Like he could easily have a cold night shooting, but at the same time, this probably is not going to be the spot where that happens. So I'm kind of fine running him out for over fantasy score. Now the data doesn't agree. And so like the better bet would be this points and assists. Those two kind of correlate to me. If he's getting 24 points and assists, 24.5 points and assists, he should be able to get his over fantasy score as well. From there, I don't really feel the need to go in on any of the other prop bets that we were getting. So let's move on into Atlanta. And so looking at Atlanta, we got Trae Young for over fantasy score. That's such a high number. I don't feel the need to go out of my way to target that. And really all the prop bets that we are getting for Atlanta, I kind of don't want to really target as it sits right now. I will say I am interested in possibly looking at Jalen Johnson for over his fantasy score. Now, if we get news that, and let's just see kind of what it's looking like right now for that. Hunter expected to play. Bay, very questionable. So if Bay were to sit, that just secures the minutes a little bit more for Jalen Johnson. So really, Hunter being back could hurt him a little bit, don't get me wrong. But really, I would say we'd be fine betting the over points, rebounds, and assists from right now. But I'm curious as to where the fantasy score prop comes out to be because he has been going off lately. And really, the markets haven't adjusted, whether that be for DFS or for props betting. Like DFS-wise, you can tell the markets haven't adjusted because he is still the same price tag, even though he's been going off. And I know this is more of a props betting channel, but that's just a call that I wanted to make. So now moving on into the next game, we got the Bulls versus the Kings here. 2-point spread, 230 or so for the over and under. Looking at the injuries, Kings pretty much good to go. Bulls, nothing too different. I mean, Kobe White being a game time decision is obviously pretty huge, but like that doesn't really help DeMar DeRozan out too much. Now we haven't seen Kobe White and Levine out too much thus far this season. So it very well could end up helping DeMar DeRozan, and it probably would. I think that's the natural thought. But when one of the two have been off the court, DeMar DeRozan hasn't really picked up too much more usage. And maybe that just goes to Caruso. Maybe that just goes to Ayo. That's kind of what I expect. Now, Vucevic should be in for a good game as well, especially with Patrick Williams still out. So looking at the Kings, one of the very popular plays yesterday DFS-wise was actually Kevin Huerter. And you can see he had another good assist game. My issue with trusting really anyone on the Kings is that if they have just like a poor night shooting, they typically just aren't going to get the minutes. Now, last game he still had a good game, and he only had 30 minutes in that game. To me, that feels a little bit too thin. The rebounds and assists at 7.5, but like I wouldn't talk anyone off of it at the same time. Like if you guys want to run that out, I'm kind of fine with it. But really for the Kings, the props that we are getting other than that do feel a little bit too thin. Like I just don't feel the need to go out of my way to target any of them. Keegan Murray, for instance, he's very much shot dependent as well. So the props that we're getting on him, I just don't feel the need to target. I don't know if we're going to be getting any prop bets for Chicago. Oh, we are. Okay, so they're expecting Kobe White probably to play. But again, guys, if Kobe White were to sit, Ayo would be someone that would really benefit. And so looking at his points prop, that does seem to be pretty low given the minutes that he's been playing. Like he has been productive. Now, don't get me wrong, 3 very easy matchups in a row now with LaVine and Patrick Williams off the court. But with LaVine and Patrick Williams off the court, this is basically what we've been expecting. This is basically his role. So he is someone that I'd be fine betting the over points. And really, yes, you probably would be better off doing the over 1.53 balls made if you are just doing his points, because he is someone that has been getting around 5 3-balls up, and obviously if he's making 2 of them, that's going to make his points prop much more likely to hit. And then from there, not really getting that many good prop bets. Again, if Kobe White were to sit, maybe DeMar DeRozan gets a bump in usage, but it would be Caruso and Ayo mostly. So jumping on into the next game, we got the Cavs versus the Spurs. Spurs are 10.5 point dogs or so. Looking at the game total, it's about 230 for the over and under. Looking at the injury report, Keldon Johnson probably going to play today. Sat out yesterday on the front end of the back-to-back. Jared Allen currently at game time decision. Evan Mobley sat out earlier on the back end of the back-to-back. So got to see what's going to happen there with Cleveland. They are going to get a good matchup, the Cleveland Bigs going against the Spurs. And so I do find it fascinating that we are getting some prop bets for Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, because let's just say that Jared Allen were to sit. Evan Mobley, even though he's on a minutes limit, playing about 20 or so minutes, he should be able to get that over, especially if Jared Allen is off the court. Like that would just make sense, especially given the matchup with the Spurs. So I know the data is saying right now to bet the under for rebounds and assists for Evan Mobley, and I wouldn't talk you off of that, but man, if Jared Allen is ruled out, this is going to flip. And that'd be a good prop bet. And again, guys, this has been the issue lately. It's that it's like preparing for the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen with these injuries. It's the middle of the season, and players just could randomly sit. Now, the first 2 games that Mobley has been back, he's been playing about 20 or so minutes. You know, we'd really need him to get like 23 minutes. But again, this is going to be a pretty good matchup going against the Spurs, going against Wemby. And it's funny, I saw a post on ESPN. It was like comparing Rudy Gobert's Defensive Player of the Year to Wemby's, like blots and steals wise. And it is impressive. He's like basically exactly the same right now. And it's kind of the middle of the season. But like at the same time, I think it's because of his poor defense, like defenders getting by him and whatnot, that he's getting so many blocks and steals. Like he is an easier matchup as it sits right now. But looking at the prop bets that we're getting for the Spurs, again, the lines that we're getting for this game do feel to be a little bit too thin. So let's move on into the next game. And now in the next game, we have the Lakers versus the Knicks, 4.5 point spread. 226.5 is going to be the over and under. Do need to get news on LeBron and Anthony Davis, but we do know that Jared Vanderbilt is going to be out. So to me, that's going to ensure, especially with Cam Reddish and Gabe Vincent still out, that's going to ensure that Hachimura is going to get some run. And then looking at New York, Julius Randle's still out. Mitchell Robinson's still out. OG being a game time decision is something to monitor. He has been out for quite some time. Dante DiVincenzo, kind of as expected for me, has been someone that has been going off in the absence of those plays. And so he is someone I think with OG off the court would still benefit. And then Quentin Grimes being out is kind of big as well. So that like just ensures the role that Dante DiVincenzo is going to have. And so right now we are only, I shouldn't say only, like the prop bets that we are getting, we are seeing a lot of the overs are favored pretty much. And I kind of like some of the prop bets that we're getting here. Like Isaiah Hartenstein has been someone that has been going off in the absence of both Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle. Points and assists for him, that seems to be a little bit too low, and especially if we get news that Anthony Davis were to sit. Now, it's tough to really gauge whether that's going to happen or not, but like he has been something that's going off. And then obviously if Anthony Davis is off the court, this is a much better bet for him. He is much more likely with, Christian Wood getting minutes there and Vanderbilt being out as well. Like Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood playing center, and Hartenstein getting 36 plus minutes in games that are close. Like, man, sign me up for that. So that line right now seems to be vastly too low for him. Points and assists at 12.5, especially if Anthony Davis is off the court. Feel pretty good about that. Dante DiVincenzo for points and assists at 24.5 as well, to me, does seem to be a little bit too low. Now, I'm talking through this, and in my head, I'm like, we're probably just looking at a game stack here. Now, what's crazy is that 22, 26 shot attempts, like he had a bad game in that game against the Pacers and still shot the ball 20 plus times. And so you give him another bucket made there. That's really all what it took for him to get the over. Again, shot the ball 26 times, shooting 15 3 balls per game now over the last 3 games. Again, that's with OG off the court. And so again, I want to take a peek at that injury report. Is OG expected to play? No, he is truly a game time decision. I'm actually curious as to what RotoWire is saying. Yeah, truly questionable. And so it's tough. Like, we are really, if we're placing a bet for DiVincenzo, we are placing a bet on OG to be out, for the over at least. But maybe just given his play, maybe he continues to get run, continues to get that high usage. And then looking at the opposite side of this, I doubt we're getting many props. Yeah, LeBron and AD, again, if they play, their lines don't change. But it is kind of interesting that we are getting both of them, props for both of them, because if one of them sits, the other pretty much benefits a lot. So I don't know. That's interesting. Again, though, I do want to call it that Vanderbilt is going to be out. And so with Vanderbilt off the court, and then also Gabe Vincent and Cam Reddish off the court, I kind of expect Hachimura to get some more run. Now, the data actually suggests that it's just going to be a heavy dosage of Austin Reeves getting more run. Makes sense. Taurean Prince getting more run. That makes sense as well. D'Angelo Russell. And then Christian Wood. I don't know if I exactly agree with that, just with how solid Hachimura has been lately. I would expect him to get more run in this game. And if he does, if he gets like close to 30 minutes in this game, again, with Anthony Davis probably back and LeBron probably back, it's tough to really gauge how many minutes he's going to get. But his per 36 production is about 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. So even if he gets 30 minutes, could be some of that benefits. But again, that's to say it again, that's the issue that we have on this slate. And then getting into the Bucks versus the Mavericks, 4.5 point spread, very high game total, about 246 for the over and under, which is very crazy. Andre Jackson is expected to play. For Dallas, we don't know if Kyrie's going to play, but we do know that Luka's going to play. And so for Milwaukee, the prop bets that we are getting are, I think, pretty good, especially look at this line for Chris Middleton for underdog, 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I do like that over a decent amount. The issue that we have right now is like we don't know Doc's rotations right now. And so in 2 games with Doc thus far, we saw Chris Middleton get 30 minutes only. Now, I think that's because he got into foul trouble a little bit there. And then 34 minutes. So the minutes limit that he's had at the beginning of the season seems to be completely gone. And so with that, with this game total as well, I think we want to be hammering Chris Middleton props, whether that be assists, whether that be points, rebounds, and assists, whichever one you like the most, by all means, I think that's good, assuming that he's going to get heavy minutes. And I say that because Doc Rivers is someone that tends to give his vets more run than most coaches do. And so I expect I expect Chris Middleton get a lot of run. Lillard's points, rebounds, and assists seems to be pretty low. Brooks' points, rebounds, and assists seem to be a little bit too low. Bigs against Dallas has been something we've been targeting. And again, looking at the minutes for Brook, they have been up. So I think right now, given the game total that we have, it makes sense to stack a lot of the Bucks props for the over points, rebounds, assists. Brook, maybe Dame, but Chris Middleton as well. And I do want to call out, Jay Crowder is back to get about 20 minutes or so. That's probably something that continues. I don't think we're going to get good lines for him, but he was someone that was out for quite some time. So I just want to call out that he is kind of maybe eating into Beasley, Portis slightly. And then looking at the props that we're getting for Dallas, personally, I don't want to really target these. We are seeing a slight prop line difference for Luka assists. Maybe that's something you like. I just don't like the props that we're getting here right now for Dallas. So before I get into the bet of the day, I do just want to call it the lack of edge that we are getting right now with the props. We have 0 prop bets that have a 54% likelihood to hit, even with the fantasy score prop bets being populated in there. That should tell you the lack of good prop bets that we currently have. So it is a little bit of risk reward as it sits right now. And the same is going to be true for underdog as well. Just as an FYI, the prop bets that we're getting on underdog, basically the exact same thing. Cam Johnson for under rebounds and assists, that's fine. And then from there, Julian Champagne for over points, slight edge there, but that's really it. I mean, points and assists for Chris Middleton, I'm fine betting that over. On Underdog, if that's still at 26.5, again, I like that over there. That's a good prop bet. And really, to give a bet of the day, Chris Middleton over 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and then go with Cam Johnson for under rebounds and assists for Underdog. And so looking at a bet of the day right now for PrizePicks, these are the ones that I like. I do want to call it, though, like a much better bets that we are getting like to bet on the sports books where, again, we're not getting the best EV right now for these prop bets. So I don't love that. Again, Chris Middleton over 26.5 on Underdog is going to be much better there. I wish we were getting more fantasy score prop bets. I do think Maxey for over points is fine, but right now, these are the 4 best that I see. Again, tighter slate today. Probably going to be a lower volume day than normal. But that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate that. If you guys want access to the prop tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Available for just $10 a month. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.